Hey, everybody, welcome to the first Thursday after the All-Star break, the actual start of basketball coming back from the break, not that one-game Wednesday nonsense. I'm Dan Besbris, just here to introduce Snack Size DFS with my good buddy Brenton Eckersley, coming up in about 90 seconds. Make sure to subscribe. That's a really big deal. Hit that button so you get all of our DFS shows as they drop, along with the full season NBA shows, our MLB draft prep shows, and for a limited time, a specialists series for those of you that are headed towards your fantasy basketball playoffs. In the meantime, also check out our friends at Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. They've got every three-pointer, every hat trick, and cover you with odds, stats, and more on every game, every play, and every win. Doesn't matter if you've been doing this for a long time or if you're a first-timer, Bet Online is the perfect game day companion for you to get you settled with that number one sports betting source, whether it's NBA, college hoops, baseball's coming around, NHL, UFC, you name it, they've got it. Bet Online, the game starts here. Enough out of me. I'm not here to do anything other than just yell at you guys to hit buttons and click things. Like, subscribe. Brenton time.
Thanks, Dan. Welcome back to Snack Size DFS after a little hiatus / break for the All-Star weekend. The controversial All-Star weekend, right? Not my favourite time of year, and this year, unfortunately, just seemed to get worse somehow. I like the format that they went with the All-Star games. The young guns and the international team, etc. But then just 3 hours of broadcast for basically 30 minutes of basketball is not my idea of entertainment / sports television broadcasting. Nonetheless, it was an interesting weekend. Mac McClung jumping cars, pretty crazy. That was a nice dunk. I really loved the Stephon Castle, but coming from behind the backboard with a little bank shot through the net and up under his leg into the hoop was a pretty cool dunk as well. But overall, honestly, just a little bit underwhelming, and they need to sort out the broadcast big time. But that's not why we're here. We're not here to talk All-Star break. This is Snack Size DFS. My name's Brenton Eckersley, your host from Adelaide in South Australia, and we are here to break down the Thursday, 20th of February DraftKings slate. 9 games on, and DK have lined them all up, all 9 games in the main slate. So we've got a lot to get through here. There's a bit of news to work with. Obviously, keep in mind that I do go early here. This is a full day before the actual slate, so there will be plenty of news to drop. As always, please keep an eye on the news. This video series is to basically get you pumped, get you primed, get you lubricated before the major part of the news finally drops as we lead into the games for Thursday. So yeah, we're here to get you salivating and get you thinking, and then you can make your final decisions based on the news at hand when we get a little bit closer. As I said, 9 games on. Here are your game notes for Thursday, February the 20th. We have some fast games. Memphis at Indiana will definitely be a quick one. We don't have a game total yet, but that is going to be super fast. Chicago at New York, also slated to be fast. Vegas has that coming in at 244 game total. And Phoenix at San Antonio will also be fairly quick at 235. Some big news on the San Antonio side of the ball just before I recorded. We'll get to that. Boston taking on Philly in Philly. That one is going to be one of your slower games of the day. No game total yet. Some pace bumps. We have Indiana taking on Memphis. Memphis, the quickest team in the league at the moment. Boston taking on Philly. A little bit of a pace bump there for Boston, who play generally very slow. Philly a lot quicker. Orlando, anytime Orlando play, it's a pace bump, right? Because they're basically the slowest team in the league. Taking on Atlanta, one of the quick teams. And the Knickerbockers taking on Chicago will get a nice healthy pace bump as well. For your attack and stack teams this time, we've got New York taking on Chicago, Indiana taking on Memphis, Phoenix taking on San Antonio, as San Antonio stay at the top, near the top of the board for fantasy points given up, And just a quick note here, Milwaukee have moved into that top echelon of giving up fantasy points. Just keep in mind that Giannis has been out. We expect Giannis, well, we hope Giannis will be back in this one. So the attack and stack for the Clippers there taking on the Bucks may not be as healthy as it reads. Let's jump into the first game. As you can see, I've tidied things up a bit using some tables here in the slides. It just looks a lot neater now. Hopefully you guys can follow along a little bit easier. It certainly makes my life easier. Memphis taking on Indiana. As we said, this is going to be a pretty quick game. It's a back-to-back for Memphis here. This is going into the back-to-back for them, the Thursday-Friday back-to-back. Just a note that most of the Memphis guys at the high end of the board, the high-priced guys, Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., Bane, all pretty appropriately priced here. Healthy team, so I'm just leaving those guys alone. Couple of dart throws for you, though. GG Jackson at 4,100. He's your main pinata play here for a bit of upside. You can see that his scoring's been all over the place, but he is worth a shot if you happen to fall in that GPP area of $4,100 left over. Santi Aldama's minutes are back up again. 4,500 is more of a lower upside, safe floor kind of play. On the Indiana, frog in the throat, sorry. On the Indiana side of the ball, as mentioned, this is a nice healthy pace bump for Indiana, who do play fast anyway. Just before I recorded, Miles Turner was ruled in, so you can see me just cross out a couple of guys there. No longer interested in Thomas Bryant or Obi Toppin. That Obi Toppin 53-point DK game is not something I'm going to chase, especially with Turner in. The only guy I'm really interested here in is Benedict Mathurin at 5,200. 30 plus minutes in his last couple of games and healthy field goal attempts as well. Moving into Boston and Philly, this is going to be probably the slowest game of the day, I would imagine. We now know that Holiday and Brown have both been ruled in, hence me crossing out Derek White from my original planning. That's just off the board for me now. He's only really around value at 6,900 with those guys in. Xavier Tillman out. That really doesn't mean much for us in DFS at the moment. Jason Tatum, though, at 10K, right on the dot. He had 62 and 66 DK points versus Philly in the two games earlier this year, so he is definitely in play here. Sam Hauser, just a note, 4K. Yes, he's had some good DK games in the last couple, but Jaylen Brown was out of both of those, so I am not that interested in Sam Hauser. Moving into the Philly team, Embiid, Maxey, Paul George, all ruled in this morning. We have Eric Gordon and Kyle Lowry out, and also just to note that we had a couple of extensions or new contracts for Lonnie Walker and Jared Butler, both signing for 2 years, which is interesting. Probably not for today's game, though. Joel Embiid at 9,900. Yep, he's absolutely in play. He's always in play, and especially when he drops under 10K, and we know that his minutes have been right where we need them to be, around that 31 to 33 minutes in the last couple. In fact, he played 38 minutes versus Toronto. Kelly Oubre Jr. was crossed out for me as soon as we learned that Maxey and Paul George were both in. Quentin Grimes, though, new team, taking on a new role. The pricing hasn't caught up. DK, so 5K DK, that's fine for me. If you can't keep up with the pricing quick enough, I will play Quentin Grimes at 5K, 32 and 34 DK points in his last two. Third game of the day, it's Orlando taking on the Hawks. This is a pace bump for Orlando, obviously. Very, very slow team. Atlanta, much, much quicker. Isaac is in, Jonathan Isaac for the Magic, and Jalen Suggs remains out. Paolo Banchero at 8,300. He dropped 46 on Atlanta in the last game on 10 of 22 field goal attempts, so there is a little bit of meat on the bone there. And Franz Wagner at 8,600. I probably prefer him over Paolo here. 54 versus Atlanta in the last game. That was a much better field goal percentage game for Franz, but you can see that the upside is there for Franz, especially against a team versus Atlanta. Just be aware that Dyson Daniels is going to have to pick up one of these guys. I probably have my money on Franz Wagner being the guy, so I've actually left both of these guys out of my favourite plays for the day, but they are there around that 8 to 9K if you need them. Wendell Carter Jr., 4,100, back up to 28 minutes versus Charlotte in the last game. It's a pinata play only. He and Goga are very much a washing machine at the moment. Goga's minutes way down, but Wendell Carter Jr.'s minutes only just came up in the last one, so he's an okay play at 4,100. He's certainly not my favourite lowest price guy on the board. For Atlanta, George Niang, 4,300, new team. He had 30, in his last 3 games, his DK point scoring has been like this: 35, 14, and 38. So a little bit all over the place, and we have to note that 14 DK points came against Orlando. So be careful. He did have 34 minutes in his last game, and he is going to be a pinata/dart throw for you. Dyson Daniels is a bit of a safer option at 7K if you need to land in that mid-tier pricing. He is too cheap. He's been beating that most nights quite easily and pushing into the 40 DK points on a regular basis. Karis LeVert, new team, 5,300. If he gets the start, I'm interested. If he's going to come off the bench for some reason, then I'm not so keen. He has had good minutes in the last couple of games on this new team, and he has double-digit field goal attempts in his last 2 also. So not a bad stab there for Karis LeVert. I'm going to play him if I know he's starting. The Cavs taking on the Nets. Cavaliers are a little bit more straightforward than Brooklyn at the moment. Max Strus is an option at 4,500. He started the last game, I believe, over DeAndre Hunter, who is new to the Cavs. 30, 30, and 32 DK points, but they have been on pretty poor field goal attempt percentage, so we can look at Max Strus here at 4,500. Jarrett Allen at 6,500. He's a great play here versus the Brooklyn bigs, or a lack of bigs. We know Claxton is in, but that doesn't really bode any kind of worry for me at all. Jarrett Allen is in play at 6,500. Evan Mobley at 8,400. Look, it's a GPP play here for me. He's capable of big scores. It is versus Brooklyn, who are terrible defensively, basically. Just watch the blowout risk when you're playing high-price guys. On the net side of the ball, I basically believe that every player on the Nets team at the moment is a pinata/dart throw. I just can't get them right. I have I have limited interest when the Nets are playing because you just don't know who is going to pop off any given night. I didn't list the Cleveland Cavs ins and outs. So Ty Jerome and Isaac Okoro are both questionable, and Dean Wade has already been ruled out. For the Brooklyn Nets, ins, outs, probables, etc., we know that Nick Claxton is in. Cam Thompson ruled out this morning. Noah Clowney is going to be out for a few more games as well, and also a couple of contract notes there for you. Killian Hayes back from the dead, signing a 10-day. That could mean anything. I just want to see what happens there. He could play, might not even come off the bench, so he could be a DNP CD, who knows. Tyrese Martin at 2 years, yeah, he's more likely to play, but I'm still not looking at him in this game. As mentioned, Cam Thomas ruled out, so cross the line through him. Keon Johnson at 4,900 with Thomas out is definitely more interesting. He's a pinata play, and Trendon Watford has been getting some minutes lately and some decent DK scoring. 4K for Watford if you happen to land there. As I said, I just can't get these guys right, so they are GPP plays, dart throws, pinatas, whatever you want to call them. I rarely play Brooklyn Nets at the moment. Chicago taking on New York in New York. We expect this to be a fast game. I'm staying away from the Chicago guards in this one. There's too many of them, number one, and they're all just appropriately priced versus New York, a tough team to play against. Lonzo Ball is in. Patrick Williams questionable. It's the two big guys here for Chicago for me. It's Nikola Jokic at 7,700. He dropped 44 on New York earlier in the year on 10 of 19 field goal attempts. Beware of the blowout when you're playing someone that high price. Jalen Smith on the other side of the blowout option. If it is a blowout, he'll get more minutes. So 3,700 would be a pinata play. He's been getting high teens to low 20 minutes anyway in the last few, and we know that he's a super duper points per minute producer. GPP play, pinata play if you think that Chicago can't keep this close. On the other side of the ball for the New York Knicks, big pace up here for the Knickerbockers. We have McBride ruled in. We have Anunoby questionable. He's been listed questionable the last few games and hasn't played, but I believe he did practice. Interesting. Josh Hart ruled out, is just out of the blue, and also Mitchell Robinson making his way back but ruled out for this game. Couple of guys here I am interested in on the high price side of things, but beware the blowout risk. It's always a risk. Jalen Brunson, 8,400, dropped 40 and 51 DK points versus Chicago. I'm interested in that 51. We like that. It was a close game, and the same goes for Karl-Anthony Towns, 9,700. He has huge scoring against Chicago this season. However, both of those games were close games, so we need Chicago to keep this close to be able to get value out of those two high-priced guys. If you think they can keep it close, then sure, both of them are high upside kind of high price plays. Cameron Payne at 3,300 would be the low end of the bottom of the barrel pinata play for me, 3,300, and the only reason I've included him here is Josh Hart is out, so minutes have to go around. You can probably throw Miles McBride in there as well. I just like the pricing for Cameron Payne, who can put up fantasy points in a hurry. The Clippers taking on Milwaukee. We believe that this one's also going to be pretty quick. I think Vegas is estimating pretty quick one. Fast pace bump here for the Clippers taking on the much faster Bucks. For the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, Amir Coffey, Drew Eubanks all ruled in. A few guys I'm interested in here for the Clippers. James Harden at 9,300. He dropped 63 versus Milwaukee earlier in the season, and yes, Kawhi was in for that game. Norm Powell, 7,400. This is kind of around value, but we know the dude has 45 point DK upside. He had 45 DK points versus Milwaukee, and Kawhi did play decent minutes in that game as well. Kawhi himself, 7,100. Look, yo-yo scoring. He's still not quite back in rhythm yet. His minutes are up now. They're back up to the mid to low 30s, so 33, 32 minutes. Always in play at 7,100. He's going to be a GPP option away from some of the more obvious names in this card. Ben Simmons is an interesting one. First game in for the Clippers at 5,500 today or tomorrow. The Thursday game's 5,500. 27 minutes just off the bat. Just keep in mind that Kawhi did not play in that game, so those minutes could evaporate pretty quickly with Kawhi in here. For the Bucks, this is a back-to-back. They have the Thursday-Friday back-to-back as well. Giannis and Lillard are both questionable. Just a little note there because I ran out of room. If Lillard doesn't play, then I'm more interested in Gary Trent Jr., 4,200. We know he's been killing it lately. He's a bit of a yo-yo scorer himself, but if Lillard doesn't play, I will have more interest in Gary Trent Jr. Apart from that, it's Kyle Kuzma at 6,500. He's looking great with the Bucks. He looks like he's found a really nice home. He's going to be the third option on this team, which is where you need Kyle Kuzma to be, and in a good team, not on the Washington Wizards any longer. He had 17 field goal attempts in his last game for 42 DK points. We love to see that. Dame is questionable, 9,500. He dropped 63 on the Clippers earlier this season. That's not always, well, how they say it, past performances and not indicative of future performance, but it's a good guideline, right, because Giannis was in that game. So 63 DK points at $9,500 value. If he can do anything like that again, then he's going to exceed that value quite obviously. Bobby Portis, just a note here, 7K. His minutes way back down now with Kuzma in. Worse if Giannis is back, just leave him out here for me. Charlotte taking on Denver in Denver. This is a back-to-back for Charlotte. They're playing today, late game in Los Angeles, I believe. They have the Wednesday, Thursday back-to-back. This will be a pace bump for Charlotte. Always surprises me to read that because obviously last year they were very, very quick. This year, not so much. Denver, the faster team, and Westbrook will be back in for Denver, so that pushes the pace even further. For the Hornets, LaMelo Ball, Mark Williams, both ruled probable. Moussa Diabate is in, Okogie out, and also just a little note that Elfrid Payton's been signed to a second two-way there, so that throws a little spanner in the works at the top of the order. Pricing notes for LaMelo, Miles Bridges, and Mark Williams, all appropriately priced here versus Denver. I'm not interested in any of those guys. Moussa Diabate, if Williams can't go, he is listed probable though, so that's unlikely to occur. If Williams goes out, then $4,900 for Diabate is a great price and will be a lock. Nick Smith Jr. at $4,500. If LaMelo can't go, again, he's listed probable, but Nick Smith Jr. at $4,500 will be your pinata dart throw if LaMelo cannot play. For the Nuggets, Westbrook is listed in. That's going to push the pace up even higher, as mentioned. Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., and Aaron Gordon all probable. So a pretty healthy team here for Denver. Nikola Jokic, 12-5. He's always going to be on my board just because, as I'm going to leave up there every single time we do this video, the dude is pretty damn good at basketball, right? So 12,500 seems like a massive price. The dude dropped 83 on Charlotte earlier. Is he in play? Hell yeah, he's in play here. He's one of the best high-price guys on the board. You'll just have to find some value to fit in around him. Note on Christian Braun, 6,500. He's been on a tear, but Westbrook is back. That basically counts him out for me. Here, the usage will drop, possibly the minutes. He'll lose a few of those as well. Michael Porter Jr. in a similar boat, 6,600. The field goal attempts have just been absolutely wild in the last 3 games. 22, 23, and 16 field goal attempts is super high. He is a GPP play away from other guys, given that Westbrook is back also. Second to last game, I think we are here. The Suns taking on the Spurs in San Antonio. For the Suns, we have Bill, Booker, and Grayson Allen all ruled in as of this morning. Cody Martin's still out. Kevin Durant at 9,200. He's just another guy who's always in play. When the price gets up over the 10K mark, then you've got to start thinking about things a little bit harder. But 9,200, he's a great play here for me versus San Antonio, who are giving up fantasy points on the regular at the moment. Bradley Beal, 6,200. We know he's in now. This is a decent price for Bradley Beal. He's going to be a yo-yo. He is a risky play. He's either going to give you 25 or 42. So if you think you can play Beal here against San Antonio, I won't stop you. 6,200. He has had decent field goal attempts in his last 2, 17 and 11 respectively. Bol, fantasy darling of the week, 4,800, 33, 30 and 33 minutes in his last 3. Will that continue? I don't know. It might. If it does, we have to stay on him at 4,800. It's too cheap. Field goal attempts are just way up there as well. And he's had a couple of poor shooting nights. So, and the other thing now, on the other side of the ball, Wemby is doubtful. So, less rim protection. Not that Bol is a huge driver or anything, but it just may make things a little bit easier for Bol here. Eat the chalk at 4,800. For the Spurs, as I mentioned just then, Wembanyama has come up out of the blue doubtful today. Charles Bassey is already out, so we're going to have to look right to the bottom of the list here. Sandro Mamukelashvili, I knew I'd get that wrong if I thought about it. Mamukelashvili, $3,000. That's too cheap for a guy who's just going to have to play minutes. They may play some small ball, but Sandro's just going to have to play here. They do not have a centre if Wemby does not play other than Mamukelashvili. So he's going to have to play minutes and will sneak into my favourite plays, I believe. De'Aaron Fox at 7,900. Because Wemby is out, we have a whole lot of usage that just has to go around now. Yeah, you could look at Chris Paul. Yeah, you could look at Jeremy Sohan, but it's Fox for me at 7,900 given the upside. And Harrison Barnes would be the dart throw for me, especially with Wemby out at 4,800. Lakers taking on the Trailblazers in the last game. It's a back-to-back for the Lakers, so keep an eye on the news for the old man LeBron James. It's a Thursday back-to-back, so Wednesday I believe they were saying LeBron is going to play. Just watch the Thursday back-to-back. So LeBron James questionable, but everybody else has basically been ruled in. Doncic, Finney-Smith, Jackson Hayes, Cam Reddish, Gabe Vincent, they're all ruled in. LeBron at 10-2, capable of anything. He had 55 points, DK points versus Portland earlier. It's not my favourite play. He does not make my favourite plays board today, but we just need to mention him because of the star context. Luka Doncic, 10,700 now. I think Shams reported this morning, that there's going to be a minutes restriction lifted here. For me, that could mean 28 minutes. He's been playing 23 to 24. 28 minutes of Luka might be enough, but not at that price. I'm leaving him out. Also, Jackson Hayes, really the only guy I have any kind of interest in here. It's going to be a washing machine here on the Lakers for a little while. Austin Reeves is appropriately priced. But Jackson Hayes, look, I've said on previous episodes that I'm not excited by Jackson Hayes. 5K is a decent price. He doesn't have a huge amount of upside, especially with Luka in taking up usage. Can he get some lobs from the Luka passes? Yeah, sure he can. I'm just not hugely excited. We do know that we can attack Portland centres. However, that has been DeAndre Ayton playing the centre. He's now ruled out for a long, long time, and it's going to be Donovan Clingan, who is a bit of a block machine down there. So Jackson Hayes at 5. I've spent way too long talking about Jackson Hayes. You can play him if you want to. I don't often play him. 5K is a decent price, though. Let's move away from that guy. On the Portland Trailblazers side of things, Jeremy Grant, Scoot Henderson, and Williams? Who am I thinking of there? That may be an error. Grant, no. Let's just talk about Jeremy Grant and Scoot Henderson. They're both ruled questionable at the moment. There's not a lot here on the Portland side of the ball. The main guy I'm interested in is Donovan Clingan, of course. 5,600 is a price jump, but he is a must-roster guy. He's going to play a stack of minutes at centre here versus Jackson Hayes. There's that name again. 5,600 is an eat-the-chalk play for Donovan Clingan. Anthony Simons at 6,500 is a GPP play away from some of the other guys we've already talked about. He's a decent price anyway. We know he has the upside. He dropped 38 DK points versus the Lakers earlier this season. And one little name I want to mention down the bottom there, don't get excited for this slate, but Delano Banton, 4,500. If you are a very keen fantasy guy like I am, especially for season-long stuff and DFS, we know what Banton did at the end of last season once the Portland Trailblazers had packed it in for the tank. So just keep an eye on this guy, 4,500. If he starts getting minutes, and he's had decent minutes in his last 2 games, he's going to blow through that value every single night. He's on the watch list right now. Some favourite plays of the day, Thursday the 20th of February. I've tried to break this up a little bit because there are a few names here. We've got high price, medium price, and low price. In the high price area, it's Tatum versus Philly, it's Embiid versus Boston. It's probably Jokic versus Charlotte as my favourite high price play, but Cat versus Chicago, both of those guys had monster scores against those relevant opposition teams earlier this season. In the mid-price area, 7 to 8K, it's Fox versus Phoenix, and it's Kyle Kuzma versus the Clippers. Lower end of the scale, around that 5K or under pricing, it's Bol Bol versus San Antonio, Quentin Grimes taking on Boston, Santi Aldama versus Indiana, and Donovan Clingan is a must-play. Eat the chalk kind of guy versus the Lakers. That's it for me today. 9 games, a lot of stuff to talk about. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for the support, as always, for Snack Size DFS and the Old Man Squad Network. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Drop some comments down the bottom. Did you like the new format with the tables instead of just the plain text? If you have any suggestions, I'm always open and willing to listen. Like, subscribe, Old Man Squad. That's who we are. This has been Snack Size DFS. My name is Brenton Eckersley. Back to you, Dan, in the studio.
Thanks, as always, Brenton, for another amazing Snack Size DFS. All kinds of weird news on DFS cards as we hit the stretch run here on the NBA campaign. But Brenton's going to get you to some more victories along the way. He is at Terrain72 over on social media. This is an Old Man Squad presentation. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. That's a big one. And check out our friends over at UnderdogFantasy.com. Use promo code OLDMAN, OLDMAN, when you sign up, or just click the link in the promo description for this podcast to unlock a 50% deposit match bonus up to $1,000 and a free play on your first pick'em card. Just pick higher or lower on as few as 2 names on the board, whether that's points, rebounds, assists, first quarter scoring, combination PRA, all kinds of choices. If you got a hunch on a player, throw them in that pick'em lineup over at UnderdogFantasy.com and turn that hunch, turn that knowledge into cash. It's your call at UnderdogFantasy.com. Promo code again is OLDMAN, Old Man. Not surprisingly, it is what we are. Thanks again to Brenton Eckersley for Snack Size DFS and Old Man Squad presentation. He'll have more for you. The only way you're going to get it, subscribe on the way out. I'm Dan. Thanks for watching. See you guys.